Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
Hi there, welcome back to another episode of MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. So, I'm starting a new series of videos here alongside our Death Cart Throwdown project. I got a 2010 Mercedes S-Class here, and this is my personal vehicle. It's a S400 Hybrid, and what it is, it's a mild hybrid, meaning it doesn't run completely off a battery. It just has like a booster motor that helps a smaller gasoline engine get better gas mileage. So, which that it does. On the highway, this thing gets 31 miles to the gallon, which is like outstanding for a full-size S-Class. The only difference is that this car has the 3.5 liter V6 instead of the 5 or the 5.5 liter V8, and which gets considerably less fuel economy on the highway. So considering the heft of this car, it's a heavy car. You know, the V6 moves it along pretty good. It's a modified version of their regular V6. Got different cams in it, different tuning, so it makes a little more torque, a little more power. And so anyway, this particular one has some issues. The power electronics module, which is what controls the hybrid and the booster motor, which is also the starter motor, which is why we're even bothering with it, and also controls the power to drive the air conditioner, because the air conditioning compressor is not driven by the belt, it's driven by the hybrid system. So this might be a boring video for some, but for the benefit of my gearhead brethren out there who might actually happen to own one of these and is interested in pulling this module out themselves, I'll do a step-by-step following the Mercedes guidelines. Of course, safety first. We are dealing with a high voltage hybrid system, so we'll be watching everything for that. And what we're going after is a single component inside that power electronics module. It's a high voltage capacitor that goes bad over time, and for safety, once the software sees that it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it shuts that function down. And we're going to see if we can't maybe go to component level and fix it, because a replacement module, if you can find one, because 2010 they're not making parts for it anymore, is about $8 according to a guy at Mercedes. So that's really worth more than the car. So we're going to see if we can fix it, and if we can't, well, we've got a beautiful looking paperweight, I guess. I don't know, but we'll see how we go. Alright, so one of the first things we have to do is we have to disable the hybrid system. So to do that, we pull our cover off of our hybrid battery, and then you have this connector here, and that takes care of that. Now, Mercedes has a, of course they have a lot of procedures, and when you're working on these commercially, you have to have, just all kinds of safety procedures in place. They have a lock that fits over that plug in the hybrid battery right here, and the mechanic who's certified to work on it keeps the key, so nobody can get in there and hook the power up while somebody's under there working on it and starts singing "You Light Up My Life." So then we're going to move on here, and we're going to have to disconnect all the cabling to get this power module out. It's down on the side of the engine block, so we're going to have to lift the motor. We've got to take the right side catalytic converter out and get that out of the way. Then there's some coolant lines that run to that module to help keep it cool, and so this ought to be interesting. Alright, now there's one other big cable that runs outside here and goes on down and around to the module. We'll have to take that off. In order to do that, there's a bolt right here on the top we have to undo. Okay, now, next thing we're going to want to do, because we're going to have to pull the catalytic converter out on this side, is to unplug the O2 sensor, and the wire for the O2 sensor clips on right there to that bracket. So we're going to go ahead and prepare a little bit and get that undone and out of the way, so when we go to pull the O2 sensor out, it'll come out without any fuss, because we're going to be doing it from underneath the car, and we're not going to be able to get at that when it comes time to pull that thing out. Oh, I have to forgive the noise. I got my fan running over here because it's pretty darn hot today. So this is what the underside of a Mercedes S-Class looks like. Get you kind of a walk under view here. Well, part of the exhaust system, it's got sound deadening all underneath the car. And shielding. Which of course means that in order to get to what I'm going after, I'm going to have to take all that shielding off, or most of it. Very gently. And there we have it. Get at it from up in here. Disconnect that. Got my connector out there. Once you do that, she's off. You can pull that back around underneath. So underneath in here, there's all manner of heat shields, a heat shield that you have to get out of here to be able to get to that power electronics module. Now, if I tried to get the camera in here and show you how to do all this, this video would be a week long, so you'll just have to figure that out for yourself. It's really not that difficult. Okay, so you can see right there that hose nipple, and then this hose right here that I took off. That's one of the coolant lines. And then you've got that one there. And then there's also an electrical connector I got to take off, and then hopefully we can get this unbolted. Now, you know, there's always one or two bolts that are always going to give you a fit. Here's a bolt, and it's right there that you have to get to. And then there's another one right here that you have to get that heat shield off. And that's one of those inverted torque sockets. So there's not enough room to get the socket in there. I guess if you pull the motor out, you can get to it easy enough. But the trick that I found that works is a 5/16 wrench. And that fits on there just right. And we'll break them loose and get them out of there. Still a royal pain, but at least it works. Boy, that was a real bear getting that out. That's Mercedes for you. Alright, so the manual is going to be quite vague, but what you got to do, once you got your heat shield out, your two front bolts that hold the module in, and then the two back ones, this one here, and there's a big one right there. Alright, don't go prying on this just yet, because there's a small Torx bolt here, and then you have to take this one and this one out to get at the other Torx bolt under here, and then there's 3 more bolts that connect your 3-phase to the motor generator inside the flywheel housing here. So you don't want to go getting all hand-fisted with it, because it'll mess you up. And it's a good thing I checked and was real gentle, because the manual doesn't mention anything about that. So we got to get that out of there. That's the interlock. But then you can get to this other Torx bolt right here, and then that cover will come out. And I'm guessing we're probably going to have to pop this elbow out of here to be able to get that out, because I don't know if there's enough room for that to come out. So we'll see. Yep. That elbow, that coolant elbow, had to come out in order for that cover plate to have enough room to get out of there. So let's get that off now. Then we can get this cover plate off, and that covers the 3 screws that hold the 3 phases in contact with the starter generator. Alright, so let's give you an idea of what we're up against here. So you can see those 3 screws down in there. That's what we got to get out. And the that curved piece of pipe went right there. So yeah, it's a pain. Woo-wee. Boy, if that ain't a classic case of cramming 10 pounds of crap in a 1-pound sack, I don't know what it is. But anyway, I finally got everything loose now. I'm going to pull that power module out of there. It's like giving birth to a freaking alien baby, man. There it is. Let's get this puppy on the bench. Alright, so now we've got the module out of the car. We have to take the module apart and see where this mysterious unobtainium capacitor is. Now, we're talking about German engineering here, so you don't want to just start taking screws out and prying halves apart and things like that, because you don't know what's hooked together where, and you'll end up breaking something and then you'll be sorry. So we're going to have to be real careful. And additionally, they also use tamper-proof Torx screws on some of these screws. Now obviously we're getting into, you know, uncharted territory here, because it's not considered a serviceable part. You know, you take it off at the dealer and the dealer swaps it out with a new module, and the insides of that box are only known to some of the biggest eggheads at Mercedes-Benz, is going to be my guess. So, and try and diagnose it from a basic 6-step troubleshooting of electronics, and that is, we know that the module, the error codes and the troubleshooting from the campaign that Mercedes put out, that is available in PDF format on the internet. And as part of the troubleshooting steps, you go and you read off the capacitance value of this capacitor, and if it's below like a certain number, it's like 850 microfarads or something, then it's no good. Well, 850, 950 microfarads, that's pretty big for a capacitor. So, you know, number one, we want to be careful in there, because if it is holding the charge, you don't want to get zapped. And two, these capacitors are rated at around 300, 400 volts. So that makes them even bigger, and you know, that could be you know, another reason we want to be really careful going into here. So now, as we crack into this thing, as I told you, there's some tamper-proof Torx. Let me show you what they are. This is a standard Torx bit, and you'll see the end of it is solid. Tamper-proof has a hole in the end of it. Okay, and to further throw you off, when Mercedes puts that thing together, they hammer down and peen the top of the screw, which kind of boogers it up, and what in this case is a T20 tamper-proof doesn't feel right. It doesn't go in there, but you just have to kind of line it up and then tap it in to get through that peening, and then we can get it off. So I'm going to save you the trouble of watching me undoing screws. That's kind of up there with watching paint dry. So I'm going to get all the screws out, and then we'll start exploring. Okay, and like I said, we're in uncharted territory here. So you've got, I've marked the colors of these wires right here, because historically speaking, negative is always black in the automotive world, but on this it's positive, and the one that's stamped negative over here is the red wire. So I don't know. Alright, so we want to gently pull this up and see what we got here. I think there we go. Alright, we got a ribbon cable back here, so we gotta be careful. Alright, there's a little tab there that holds that in. There we go. Alright, that gets the top half of the clamshell out of the way. Now we got bushings here. These are insulated bushings. We can get that out of our way. Now here's where we got to start being careful, because we don't know exactly what we're dealing with here. This over here looks like it's going to the DC to DC converter, which is underneath here. That goes out to those connections. And then here, this looks like our capacitor module. And I say that because on the end here, it says 1,000 microfarads at 350 volts DC. And it's all in this black plastic box, but this black plastic box is connected here, here, and here with those screws. So now what we want to do is we want to be very careful in case any of those caps are still holding a charge. So we're going to probably want to use a bleeder resistor and check those. Once we get this bolt out of here, we should be able to get that capacitor bank out. Now, as I was telling you, you can read that. That is the capacitor. Now the trick is to find out if we can service this because surely it's not made of unobtainium. It's electronic capacitors wired together. So let's see if we can get into this. Okay. So it looks like it was lightly glued in each of the four corners. Oh, look at there. Got a part number on it from another manufacturer. All right, so I don't think we're going to be able to reproduce this just using regular high voltage capacitors, but we'll see what we can do. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. So we have to try and find one of these. Hopefully we'll get lucky. So stay tuned, and part 2 we'll find out if I can find one or not. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my son's YouTube channel, the ASAP Automotive channel, and he's got a really good project going on there. Plus, this coming Friday, which is 31st, I'll be heading to Barnesville, Georgia to take the death cart out for a little test run around a track down there. And I guess they're the only ones crazy enough to let us run something like that. But and hopefully my son will get to come there, because he's just a good bit north up there in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and he'll get to come down and see us and see it run, see what he's going to be up against. Thanks for watching. See you next time.